Welcome everybody and welcome to Level Up, the Learning Lounge with Attensi here at our London offices. We've got another really special guest with us today. We have Kate Bishop from Save the Children. Kate, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
It's great to have you here. Kate, could you tell us a little bit about your role at Save the Children?
Sure, so my role is Director of Retail Brand and Strategy, which is a bit of a mishmash really. You don't often hear brand and strategy in one job title, but effectively my role covers, I'm sort of the dreamer in the leadership team, so I paint a picture of where I think we could be going on a sort of innovative level. And then I look after a team that really builds all the elements of our kind of supporter experience, so shop design, branding, marketing. And then the strategy bit comes in really with, I always call it the jigsaw puzzle. So it's really about taking all of the elements of our operation and pulling them together to deliver the vision that we've kind of set out for ourselves. So yeah, I'm a busy girl, lots going on, but it's the best job I've ever had. So
no doubt. Well, great to hear. And I would like to say, just to caveat, I think every company needs a dreamer. Just saying.
Yes, they do.
Kate, how would you describe to people watching this? How would you describe Save the Children?
So many people might have heard of Save. Obviously, we're a global children's charity, operating in 120 countries globally, including the UK. Really in the business of creating lasting change for children. So we work a lot with children, with communities, and on behalf of children to keep them safe, keep them learning, keep them well. And yeah, it's hugely inspirational. Obviously, I'm from the retail team, so our job is to raise as kind of much money as possible through our retail estate. So we operate across the UK, all 4 nations, just over 80 shops at the moment.
Wow.
And doing I think a really important job for kind of our brand presence as well as our income. So yeah, that's us in a nutshell.
And there's loads in there. I have to say myself that kind of I had no idea really what goes in and what's behind Save the Children, and I think it's just a point for me. It's quite mind blowing. Hopefully we'll talk about some of that today and it will come to life. So Kate, if I was to say to you, in what way does Save the Children empower its shop managers to make decisions and to innovate, and I guess almost be different? Would that be fair?
Yeah, for sure. I think, we like to think we've got a fairly unique model. Obviously my background is in the corporate retail world, so really in the business of sort of driving that consistency. We're all like super uptight really about keeping the brand kind of the same everywhere. I think from a charity retail perspective, that's really different. But we're also quite different within the sector, the charity retail sector as well. So we really try to empower our people, but to do that, we spend an awful lot of time engaging, building understanding, making sure that people can make the right decisions on our behalf. So there's quite a bit of freedom for our shop teams. We're really keen to make sure that, as well as representing our brand, they really do represent their local communities. And the only way you're going to do that really is by giving them the tools to really understand what we're trying to achieve as one community, and then letting them go really. Obviously it's not, empowerment to us and to me doesn't mean a free for all. We guide and coach and steer as much as we possibly can. We have some expectations, we need to stay compliant, etc. But we have an awful lot of specialist creatives in my team, operators, commercial heads, that build a lot of kind of guidelines that are there for, rather than a tell, they're an engage with the why. Like, why are we doing all these things? And I think when all that comes together and the shop teams really kind of get their role commercially on behalf of the brand, but then also locally, it's just the magic happens, and it's a special thing. So.
Yeah, I mean, look, it sounds amazing. And Kate, I've said this to you before, but the ex-retailer, I'm like, wow, I want to come and run a store. So if you've got any vacancies, we'll talk about that.
Always a space.
Kate, you mentioned that word community. So could you give some examples of that community engagement, maybe compared to a regular kind of high street? What might be perceived as a regular high street store?
Yeah, sure. So my favourite saying, I think, is that we really don't want to be cookie cutter, right? So yes, we're one brand and we're really keen to kind of tell the Save the Children story, but everything really starts, even at the design phase. So my team will go out, they will meet the local community, they'll understand their lives, their loves, their motivations, what are they into, and they will design the shop with all of that in mind.
Wow.
So we kind of have a kind of 80-20 split between, you know, the kind of the brand stuff and the localism. That goes through down to the kind of product that we sell. So where we have bespoke new goods, we're not in the business of trying to compete with our next door neighbour. We want to be part of that community rather than compete with them. And then obviously our shop teams are, you know, heart and soul of those communities. And I think they create their own kind of buzz and their own kind of heart and soul and community in the shop, but they also reach out and are kind of being part of that local area. So they'll, you know, do VM displays in line with local events. They will curate their stock and their pricing accordingly. You know, their styling is all about what people are wearing, walking up and down the street. You know, it's and as I said earlier, it's just not something we could do centrally. It's something we have to empower our teams to do. So yeah, I think our aim really is to feel a bit like an independent. You know, that kind of you know, and the independents are on the rise and we love them. You know, and the local high streets are buzzing, which is an amazing thing to see. So we really try and fit in with that and just be a bit inspiring, because, you know, nobody wants to see the same thing wherever they go.
Definitely. So. Well, I think that's amazing to hear, because typically in a retail store, certainly product would be compiled to match the local area, but you're actually really focusing on VM and how the store looks.
Absolutely.
Pretty amazing stuff. So with regards to career development, career progression, would you say that differs at Save the Children to a regular high street brand, or what does that look like?
I think so. I think that, you know, I'm a big fan of the squiggly career, right? So Save is my, you know, is my home in terms of really exposing yourself to lots of different things. So, you know, it's not always about this sort of career ladder where there's this natural kind of next step and it's all about how high you can get. We're very much more around, you know, giving people the freedom to try new things, to push themselves a bit. You know, we have shop managers come in and support with our central projects. You know, if somebody's got an interesting graphic design, they come in and they join the team to kind of help. It's definitely, I think, the way forward. I think we're seeing the world kind of get into this sort of flexible space now, and I think Save really embraces that idea of transferable skills. You know, I mean, back in my day, I was a visual merchandiser, and I remember having conversations around, you know, oh, this is a job for shoes, and actually your background is homeware, and so you could possibly, you know, mix the two, which seemed mad at the time, seems even more crazy now. So I think it's really about enabling people to do their best work, to discover what they love, what they're good at, and kind of trying to match the opportunity to it. So yeah, I think it's all how you define the term career development. I think
Squiggly,
yeah, absolutely. And that kind of growth mindset in terms of let me give it a go and see. And people who kind of bring that to the party find opportunities in the least expected areas, and off they go. You know, it's a pleasure to watch. But.
Amazing, absolutely love that principle, and that's going to stick with me now. A squiggly career.
Yeah.
And actually, to listen to you, again, you know, retail background. I think I've had quite a squiggly career, and maybe that's a good thing. Clearly.
Of course.
Kate, if we were to sort of drill into some more specifics, so let's talk about onboarding. So what have been some of the challenges, and what's maybe made you think, actually, this is where Attensi or where game-based learning could support that?
So, you know, back to that word engagement, I think I probably use it 200 times a day minimum, but, you know, part of our onboarding is obviously to get people's confidence in what we're trying to do, what their purpose is in that mission, how we all kind of work together to bring that vision to life. And onboarding, as we know, is a massive part of that. And I think, not least also just to inspire people. I always say we're trying to start a conga and we want everybody to join. So, you know, part of that onboarding piece is, you know, are we playing the right song for you to, you know, for you to join in? But I think that the challenge has always been that, you know, that really works when you kind of have that personal human connection, and where we've spent loads of resource and time sitting with people and really getting them involved. Now, obviously, that's great when you're in a kind of trial phase and you're doing little bits and kind of pushing the boundaries of what you want to achieve. We're now at a point where we wanted to kind of scale that up. And obviously, we've got, like I said, over 80 shops across the country. And to have the resource and the workforce and the capacity to have that kind of one-to-one situation just isn't tenable financially or otherwise. So we knew we needed a way of onboarding people I hadn't actually heard of gamified training till I stumbled across Attensi, and you actually, Dean.
It was a while back now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And suddenly something clicked, and I thought, wow, this is that kind of bridge between that kind of stuff you can't write down.
Yeah.
You can't write it down.
Yeah.
You can try, and
Yeah.
you can throw pictures at it, and believe me,
Definitely.
we'd tried. Nothing was quite sticking, but just this idea of really helping to engage with the bigger picture and understanding what we're trying to do. But then being able to relate that to your role and how that plays out in a scenario, and in a game, it was just brilliant. And I think, you know, we're dealing with a lot of volunteers, and actually what we want to do is kind of build their confidence and, you know, take them into areas that they might not have experienced before. And you know, training up to now, I feel has been very much about, are you getting it right or wrong? And that's just not how we are. We're about engagement and development and coaching. Yeah, so the idea of gaming and just having a play in a safe space just felt really aligned with our values as well. So, yeah, I mean, it was like a eureka ping moment, and we haven't looked back, as you know. So.
Yeah, it was really great to hear. Really, really great to hear. So with, I suppose, recent kind of launch, what did launch look like for you? So I know you've had some road shows recently. So
definitely.
Talk to us about the launch phase.
Yeah, so we, again, you know, we've all sat there in kind of launches where you're being talked at. There's a PowerPoint usually. You know, if you're lucky, there's a nice cake at 3:00. But
there's always room for cake.
Though, yeah, right? Absolutely. So Attensi has been part of a bigger change process for us. So, you know, it's really been a key tool in helping us to deliver the messages and getting people on board with what we're trying to achieve, and this kind of idea of disrupting the sector and doing it differently and talking about the why. So we started, obviously, like everything we do, sort of drip feeding through our kind of area and business managers through to our shop managers. So they were kind of aware of what was coming. But the big launch really happened, as you said, at our road shows, but we, you know, started calling retail festivals. So it all got a bit Willy Wonka. I did say I was a dreamer. And what we did was bring a summer festival indoors into our various offices. So we've done 2 so far. We're still on the road. It's kind of on tour now. And everybody's kind of turning up to just immerse themselves in our thinking. So there's like hook a duck and spin the wheel and boom boxes, and you know, it's just really fun. There's not a presentation in sight, basically. So lots of engagement, and as part of that, we obviously launched Attensi. So people were literally there signing up with their phones. Favourite pastime of the day, watching some of our more cynical technophobe volunteers, because let's face it, not everybody's an embracer. Bit frowny, thinking what's this all about? Getting their phones out, signing up, downloading the app, and then sitting in the corner, like literally kind of playing the game. And we've had, you know, like live leaderboards, and one of our area managers was like literally running the stand, as it were, and he's, you know, at the top of the leaderboard. Can you topple him? All that kind of fun stuff. And I guess then, it's that snowball effect. So we've hit those people that have been to a festival so far, but it's kind of ongoing, and definitely trying to think of different ways to bring people in rather than the usual write you an email, send you a presentation, all of that stuff. So
I think there's my next question. I think there's a little bit of answer in there, but any kind of, what's feedback been like thus far? And we're always interested to know as well that, you know, you have different generations in the workforce. How's it gone down with the different generations of children?
So I won't lie, I was slightly nervous about some of our older volunteers. We have such a diverse mix of people, which is what makes us strong. So we love it, but it's always really hard to find that one solution for such a huge mix. So, you know, we're seeing volunteering trends like really moving towards a younger audience now. So we're seeing, you know, a real reduction in our kind of average age of our volunteering group. And you know, we wanted to kind of pitch this solution to everybody, and we knew the Gen Z guys would lap it up, you know. And actually, it's really helped us with them, because as much as there's more of them volunteering, they are doing sort of short and snappy kind of versions of their day. So whereas before, historically, you know, we've got some volunteers that would give us 2 or 3 days a week, every week, in and out. That's kind of easier to train those people. but you kind of get the people that have got 3 hours here, 2 hours there, and they're in and out. You know, we really needed a solution for that. So we knew tech would be really great in that area.
Yeah.
But obviously the older generation, and I mean, these guys are incredible. They, you know, some of them have been in our shops for 30, 40 years. It's unreal. So I won't
amazing.
lie, I was a bit nervous about saying, okay, we're going from, you know, what you know to giving you a training solution on a mobile phone without any kind of stepped approach. So, but actually you know, as I said earlier, the feedback, even despite a little bit of cynicism, initially has been overwhelmingly positive. And I think people feel invested in, which is really great. It doesn't feel like
important, right?
You must do this. You know, we don't call ourselves head office because we hate it, that idea of that ivory tower. So we've kind of really worked with them to understand what they need, and the solution is literally giving them that. So they feel invested in, they're having a really good time with it. Lots of asks for lots of other modules. So now we're in this challenging time of like, where do we go next? Because we want to do everything. And just generally, it's brought a lot of people together across the generations, and it's a pleasure to watch.
That's amazing to hear, and it's a challenging, but it's a golden place, because you do find you get bombarded by people going, we could do this, can we do this? We need to do this. And you're like, okay, what's next?
No,
it's great. That's superb.
The energy is great, you know, and we need to match it, and I think this is the solution. So it's
amazing.
good.
So with that in mind, and I know it's something that's very important to the business, but would you say that is the training supported in conveying kind of, or reigniting, in some cases maybe, the Save the Children's kind of mission and values?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, you know, we're obviously about making money, but as I said earlier, we've kind of got this opportunity really constantly, always on brand presence out in high streets. And I think for a lot of our communities, we are Save the Children. They might not come across us in any other way. And we know that we've got this huge, powerful opportunity to really create an awful lot of brand ambassadors out there. And they do it in lots of different ways. You know, it's about telling stories about the impact that we're making, but, you know, even down to, I like to think of our teams as like a stone in a pond. So they have this ripple effect out into their communities. You know, they host their local MPs, you know, and they will influence them. They will run campaigns. They'll do all kinds of stuff. But again, I think the work that we're doing is so wide-ranging and so in-depth and really exciting, and there's so many great stories to tell. It's having that vehicle to be able to help them understand that and to talk confidently about it, because, you know, they're all really proud of the work that Save do, and they, you know, they'll give you the headlines, but when it really comes to that kind of organic conversation, we've struggled again to come up with that format to be able to keep them up to date with everything that's happening. So, you know, I really think that some of our next steps with the portal will be to kind of use it for sort of impact storytelling, which again motivates, engages, inspires, you know, back to that Gen Z thing. You know, I think they're really value and values led. So it's, definitely, you know, they love that kind of value and sustainability aspect of the charity shop. But actually, you know, their values are very strong and they want to know where their efforts are going and what's happening. So, you know, inspire them, captivate them, and they'll talk about it. And that's just brilliant for all concerned. So.
And I was going to ask, Kate, about kind of, you know, next steps or the longer term strategy, but you see now very much using it to storytell and share the kind of, share value, share the work you're doing, etc., and really bring to life. Yeah,
I think that, you know, my brain's on fire every time I talk about Attensi. I'm like, God, we could go in this direction, that direction. I think the engagement and the storytelling is definitely our first port of call. And I think that we also kind of see it as again, investing in our people, a route to some training and some involvement in things that they might not normally be exposed to. So we've got people who, you know, we're in the business of building people's confidence and their skills, and, you know, if somebody wants to be involved in visual merchandising, let's build a module and see if it's something you know you're really into, and that unlocks the potential for you to practice in the shop. And everyone's a winner. You might find something that you love to do. Can you tell this was my story? I just happened to be a VM once. But, you know, this is how you stumble into things in life, right? So Yeah, sky's the limit, I think.
Yeah,
The challenge is going to be picking what next. But
supports that squiggly career again, right?
Absolutely, and that's what we're all about.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Kate, one last thing.
Go on.
So, what advice would you give to a similar organisation? What advice would you give to them if they were considering game-based training?
Yeah, I think I would say don't be scared of the tech side. As much as I was hiding it well, but a little bit nervous about that. I think.
Were you, Kate?
Yeah, I think there's a tendency for our sector to be reluctant sometimes to leapfrog and step into that kind of innovative space. So I would say, don't be nervous. People really are embracing the kind of the technology behind it. And actually, we're enjoying making the content. There's nothing worse than writing a manual. I mean, we've all been there. But yeah, I would say to folks, grab it by both hands. I think this is probably some of the most powerful training I've seen, and we're already seeing results from it. And we're, several weeks in now, but people are loving it, embrace it. It's something new, something different, and we need to, shout out to the charity retail sector. We need to do things differently. We need to stay flexible and agile and all those things. I think this is a great example of embracing that and doing some great stuff.
Fantastic. Kate, thank you so much.
Oh, no, thank you. You're so welcome. Thanks for having me.
It's been great to have you. Remember, if you were unable, or if you want to watch this again or you want to share the video, of course, if you're not here, you wouldn't know what I'm about to say, but you can watch this show on record, and we are also going to have this uploaded to our podcast on Spotify. I'll share the link to that in the comments once we've uploaded. But great to have you all. Any questions, please drop them over. And we look forward to seeing you again soon.